Hey, y'all. Hey, everybody. This is Marissa Alexander. This is Thinking Out Loud. It is a Wednesday, the 14th of July on the 21st year of the 2000s. How you been doing? I hope you're doing well today. And I hope that you didn't miss me because I missed you last week. You know, Florida has its weather scares from time to time. This is pretty much our season for where we are in hurricane season down here. So we have to take all proper precautions. But I hope you join me back. Glad to see you. Hopefully, you're glad to see me as well. So today, I have been thinking a lot about um, previous relationships and how we define, toxic, unhealthy, abusive, or whatever the case may be. And I think there's a varied range of different things like that. And there's a lot of nuance and a lot of context. But today I thought about talking about the three L's of why we've stayed in a relationship or have not left that relationship. And as I thought back over my time and the things that I experienced, things that I have come in contact with people, things that I have seen, conversations that I've had, a lot of this is going to come from that, but just my own experience. I'm going to open up and share that with you. It's important for me to be transparent because I don't have anything to hide, protect, prove, or deny at this point in my life. I share with you because it's a cautionary tale, and I want people to not go through what I've been through, if at all possible. And if you're in it, or you know somebody in it, share it. And or for us to know, because sometimes we don't like kicking up the dust and letting people know our dirt. I don't have a problem in the world. You ain't got a heaven or hell to put me in. So that's where I'm at in my life. So we're going to be talking about the three L's that I have discovered through, as I said, my own experience and just also talking with others. And this is not an all encompassing type of thing. This is just, what I have on different scales in terms of there's different types of relationships. The dynamics may differ, but nonetheless, these are the three L's that I have experienced or I have seen, noticed in terms of patterns or behaviors that will keep us locked in a relationship that's unhealthy, not functioning right, not good for us, and why we still there. So the first one is going to be lust. Good old lust. I mean, and this is for men and women. So this is not just for women. This is for men as well. So hang in there because we're going to be talking about all of it in and of itself. So lust is not gender specific. It is human specific. I think at some level we all, experience it. And when we think of lust, I know a lot of us may think of just, a sexual desire of some sort or something physical. Well, that's not the case. With lust is a strong desire for something or someone. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, about a physical sexual thing. It could just be a desire for something. You know what I mean? So that typically is associated with the physical part of it. So let's just be honest. I At a certain point in your relationship, or if you are dating, if you become physical with one another, I'm not here to tell you when and not to. I think it is best to wait and really get to know a person and not jump into that because it's easy to get tied at a physical level with somebody who makes you feel good, something that feels good. Things that feel good make you want to come back to it. And so lust will make no different. How they make you feel, how they feel, what they look like. And then even on to stuff that's more, not tangible, like what they may bring in terms of ideology, meaning the attention, what they represent, having this person on your arm, aka trophy wives, or being associated with this guy, dope boys, if that's what you're into. Now, I'm not saying that all of those trophy wives or dope boys just in that category in itself, but the allure of that life. Like, we got to be honest, the allure of that life. So personally, I have never dated anybody in that lifestyle, but I understand it's quite exhilarating. However, like lust is short-lived and it does not last long. And you also have to understand that it's intense. Sometimes all aspects of the life is intense, the way they live, the way they move. Same thing with a woman, how they experience life. You know what I mean? It's a sense of It's fun. I mean, I hate to say it is. It's well, it's real. It's fun. Again, don't last long. Can't build relationship on it. Definitely not sustaining. But it is. And then there's this objects that come with it. Like when men look at certain women and identify, a certain body, a certain look, a certain sex appeal, if you will, for certain women, what they stand and what they look for, you'd have a strong desire for that. And it may not always be um, the physicality of it, it just may be the way she makes you feel. And that may extend into physicality, but it doesn't always have to be. But nonetheless, lust is essentially one of those things that will keep you trapped in from a very strong. It's very strong to pull out of lust. And for myself, I been an ex. Yes. um More from a physical standpoint, and then that's just me being honest. When you've been like, God, you know what I mean, everything about that experience feels good to you. That is a reason why a lot of people stay in unhealthy, toxic things that they probably should not be in. And it's almost like Janet said in her song, "A moth to a flame, burnt by the fire." Is exactly what it is. It feels good, and then when it's not feeling good, most of the things about that situation, what you lust or you have a strong desire for, it does not. It is not self-sustaining. It cannot sustain. It's not healthy. It's just not. Okay. Moving on to the next one. So the next L that I believe that people stay in relationships behind is going to be lifestyle. So there are people who will get into relationships or pursue people who have access to or position to perceived abundance, fulfillment, or power. And that includes money. So the more money a person has, essentially, they tend to have a little bit more power. And some people are attracted to that lifestyle. And so in those, the wants that you have are met, the needs, whatever you could ask for, you can get it. We hear a lot about that. And you just, in entertainment and just in certain circles about having access to somebody who can, get you the things you want. They don't tell you no. They can buy you what you want. They can take you here. They can do this for you. There's a certain, that stuff it's an allure behind that as well. And often people have that desire, not necessarily for that lifestyle, not necessarily because, um, not always because they can't provide it for themselves, but it's just much easier for somebody, or it's much more complimentary to be like, oh, this person wants me in that way, and they do X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? So, in the same thing with, guys with particular girls. Certain women, having certain women or certain people within your circle, or you associated with, are you with, brings on a certain level of, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a prestige to some degree. Same thing with men. Same thing in these relationships. However, what you can gain in these relationships is usually nowhere close to what you have to lose. So, oftentimes I have seen or experienced where, women may be associated or with a guy because of what it is that he can do for her. um there's a greater percentage that if you are not able to do that for yourself at a drop of a hat, 9 times out of 10 there's a certain level of entitlement that comes with that. There have been women and girls who have literally could catch beat downs. They get treated like crap. They get cheated on. They get told they can leave and do whatever they want to do. I run this because I pay the cost to be the boss. Those type of things associated with lifestyle. So people will stay in relationships and get beat down for Louis Vuitton purses, or being able to have access to this place where you don't have to pay any bills. That's possible. Guess what, man? Y'all do it too. Yeah. Yeah. Some of you will be with somebody you don't necessarily want to be with, because she's going to put up with your mess, take care of the 4 and 5 kids that you may have as well, and let you do what you want, and basically, front you, buy things, pay for things, that kind of stuff, put you in a place to stay. She got good credit. You trying to do some things. You know what? She gonna do it. She can provide that lifestyle while you get up on your feet. So 9 times out of 10, she ain't always treating you with a lot of respect either, because that one's old. Typically, like if you have somebody that is you know, in a way eating off of you, or you're able to provide them things that they cannot for a time being. Say, for instance, they're getting on their feet, or better yet, they're just like, hey, I'm a, look out for you while you try to build your dream. Guys, y'all know what that's like. I'm not saying all of them are like that. What I'm talking about is unhealthy, dysfunctional, or abusive relationships where both men and women will gravitate, look for, and expect a specific or a lifestyle that positions them or gives them access to either abundance, fulfillment, or power, usually associated with materialistic stuff and money, period. And so that L is just the lifestyle. Some people will deal with the lifestyle of an unhealthy relationship in order to have. And a lot of that time, a lot of that is just it's materialistic and it's short lived. It doesn't last long. So you have to consider what you have to lose. Um, but those things happen. So again, we got lust and we have lifestyle. So moving on to my last L. Y'all forgive me because I had to write these down, but I wanted to get into this because as I was thinking about it, these are my experiences as well. This last one is hard. It's hard because it's not an easy pill to swallow. Myself have been in a place in my life where I was lacking. So the word is lacking. So let's get to lacking. What are we lacking? Self-worth, self-esteem, and self-respect. And it's not easy for somebody to tell you that. Typically, when you're having conversations with somebody where they see that you are allowing or tolerating things that you shouldn't, and that anybody with some self-respect, self-esteem, and self-worth wouldn't, they don't necessarily say it to you as such, but they may say things like, love doesn't hurt, or, you deserve better, or I don't know why that person always continue to do the same thing. They're going to do X, Y, and Z. They're going to do what they want, and you're going to go back. I have experienced that where you don't necessarily take an inventory to understand, first and foremost, if you're lacking self-esteem, self-worth, and self-respect, then who have you identified who you are and what you are and what you are willing to deal with and what is your non-negotiable and what you're not willing to deal with. And I believe that once you know who you are, then that encompasses your self-worth, your self-esteem, and your self-respect. And when you know who you are, you'll know who you want to be with and who's for you and who is not. And oftentimes, it's an unconscious thing where we're going into relationships and that person that we're dealing with is feeling some level of void for us. And if that void is not filled with our own self-worth, esteem, and respect, then they can give it to us like in increments that'll fill that void, but it does not last long because that isn't their intention anyway. And so then what happens is once the person sees that they can get away with a certain type of thing for a long term, there's really no benefit for them to turn back for one and two reasons. Why? Because you've been accepting it for that long to begin with. And two, you continue to move the goalpost, meaning that you said something and it didn't change, and then they continue to go back and they didn't want to do it anyway because they honestly don't feel like what they're doing is a problem. And maybe it's not. Maybe there is, somebody out there who understands that can deal with that, and it may not show up for that person like that. But if that's not what you want, then you got to have the self-worth, the self-esteem, and the self-respect. So I've been there. And I've been there where I have been deficient in that. There's some places where I had, say for instance, my business life. So when I was working and I had my, as a manager at a payroll company and all of those things, most of the people on the team were older than me. And I was really good at what I did. So there was a sense of self-worth in that, but not but that was outside of, just me in general. You know what I mean? So that is not to be confused. Your work, fellas, your vehicles, your watches, your Gucci belts, none of that is to be confused with your self-worth. And so sometimes, that's an avenue where it's lacking, it's deficient, and it's not where it should be. So there was areas in my life where I did have some value, but I associated it to something else outside of me, which was my job, which was a tangible thing. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why it was so difficult for people who realized when my situation happened, was like, not her, because she's your job, your money, your, I don't know, what people view you in the world, all of those things, your the attention you get, followers, none of that stuff makes a difference if you just don't have it internally, hence the word self. So that was one of the things that, I recognized about those three L's, and the one being lacking, the lacking of self-worth, which is just self-worth, which is just basically an internal sense about yourself that you have, that you are good and you deserve good. You know what I mean? And not somebody else's version of it, what you believe to be good, what you identify with. And this is the reason why I caution that high value, the high value man, high value woman. We quick to latch on the buzzwords, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't think that's a good one to do, because everybody who's on this earth, who's alive, has value. Now, the perception of the value may, vary depending on, who is the perceiver. However, anybody alive has value. Okay. Now, what you like in a person, what you think is valuable, may have to do with just your core, like, values, dignity, character, that type of thing. But that's a whole nother thing to me. That a lot of that is not even what they're talking about when they're talking about high value man and woman. But we're just talking about somebody. I think you're gonna have to determine that, but it is not outside of ourselves in that way. The value that we have is going to be internally, just because we're here, and that we add value by who we become as a person, not that what we have and what's tangible. I think high value has a lot to do with what's not tangible. And if you can add things on top of that for comfort, by all means. I'm not saying not to have. I'm just saying that we have to consider where the value is being placed in order for us to consider what value we place on a person. And I just feel like anybody who is living, alive, and here is the highest form of God's creation, and you hold value just because of that. Now, my what I want and what I like and what is compatible with me may vary, but it's for me, it's not necessarily going to depend on what social conditioning is described as a high value man. But I have dated, what society would consider a high value man in terms of what society deems it as. I did not find that worked for me. I'm in a different place in my life. So all I'm saying, I say all that to say, is that you have to have an appreciation for yourself. And that's going to come, through, obtaining that self-esteem, that self-worth, and that self-respect. And then the question is, who am I? And I think what I know, once you know who you are, I believe you'll know what you want. And when you know who you are, there's a self-appreciation and a self-love there. There's going to be self-respect, so that you're not going to tolerate respect, nor will you be disrespectful. There's a self-worth that you're going to deal with all beings, not even just human beings, all beings in any environment that you're in, you're going to respect and have value for. And as such, you will present yourself in that way, because that'll be who you are. And then you will have, as you are healthy, you will attract healthy. You know what I mean? So I hear like a lot of people talking about, how come I can't, how come I'm not, how come I keep attracting? And sometimes you might want to look at yourself, because that's the common denominator, and I'll tell you from experience, for me, I at one point, a couple years ago, um, I would say attracted individuals with a with a lot of characteristics of a narcissistic person. Um, and they wrap themselves under the guise of being alpha males. I'm not saying this for all alpha males. And I'm not even saying that is what an alpha male really is. I'm saying they wrap themselves in the guise of that. And a lot of them were just insecure. And that is why knowing who you are and valuing yourself will allow for you to know that that is not about you, and not take on what people project onto you, if you know what I'm saying. And when you're solid and you're stable in that worth, and your self-esteem is intact, and you have self-respect, you can you know, let people off without pushing people down. You can do that in a way, um, with some dignity and some grace, and because everybody is just not for you. Sometimes it's not all these awful things about a person. It's not like why we're not together. Sometimes you just ain't the right piece to the puzzle, and that's okay. We don't have to be adversaries because of that, right? So that's what I have to say about that. Let me see what y'all talking about, y'all comments. Y'all probably giving me the business, huh? Let's see what we got, y'all. All right, comments. Uh-oh. Pamela says, church. Thank you, Miss Pamela. Appreciate you. Thank you, Charity. I'm trying. I'm just being, let me tell y'all, it takes a lot of work to be a person. It don't take no work to just be yourself. All I'm doing is just being 100 authentic with you all. I'm telling you from my own experience, because it is it's real. Okay, so Brandon, Max was all about lifestyle, and she was doing better than I was. She had a house, car, and good job, and gave it all up to move with a me in my apartment. Relationship didn't last 3 months because we weren't compatible. Hey, there you go. It happens. Compatibility. Let's see here. Greg, toxic things numb you. Girl, you have to tell me a little bit more about that. And I don't want to interpret your words, but I will say this: there's a certain level of once we become desensitized um, to certain things that we deal with, it can become numbing in the sense that we become tolerable of it, and it's really a drain. So I'm going to use it in the context of what certain substances do to us, alcohol, drugs, depending on the abuse of it and how unhealthy they can be. And after a while, what it does to you is it's supposed to create initially like this high, this euphoric feeling. And then after a while, when that short lived and it goes away, then you kind of just looking for it and hoping it'll come back, and wishing and doing it still, and it doesn't. And then things get kind of out of control. And I have been in relationships where it started out, the honeymoon phase was bananas, like, crazy good. And then you're hoping for, like, dang, I wish we could go back to the days or some of these ragged relationships be out there, like pick your fights so y'all can make up, you know, like makeup sex, that toxic stuff. Like the makeup sex is more bananas and crazy than your actual love making, which is not healthy. That is not sustainable. You know what I'm saying? But it happens. It happens. That kind of thing. That stuff happens. But when there's nothing else, that there's a foundation on that relationship, of course you ain't got nothing to look forward to the physicality, because that happens all of good 10 minutes, but you can wait through 2 more weeks or 10 more days until you're back to that high of those 10 minutes, because that ain't meant to be. Maybe it's a lack of self-esteem, worth. Maybe the lifestyle, you got it, but you got to come home and deal with so and so and they issues, and them threatening you to get out of a place that they paying for. I mean, I don't know. You make that choice, but those are the 3 L's that I'm seeing. And also we want to make sure we're not raising, our young teenagers, boys and girls, in any way that's acceptable. Um, if we're modeling that behavior, we're gonna have to be mindful of that, of how they internalize what they see us go through, and what they also understand about it. And then at some point, you're gonna have to have a conversation with the best way to change that is the best way to not model that is not to be in it. But if in fact you have, because we're all adults and we live through things, it's a good idea to be able to have a conversation with your child, especially if you're out of it. And I know that from experience. So just my thoughts on that. See what else y'all got going on. Charity says, sometimes if we keep running into the same situation, it's basically a mirror telling us to look at ourselves and the need for self-love. Indeed. Indeed. And that's what I mean by being like the common denominator. Because out of all those things, you can't change the other people, but you can damn sure change yourself. You can take a step back and you can look at things. And guess what? Next week, I got 3 L's on how to move past that. Yes, your girl been doing some work. I'm going to give it to y'all. So next week, that's what we're going to talk about. The 3 L's to move beyond that. Especially if it's something that if you were to be honest, you ain't got to be honest with nobody but yourself, okay, about where you are and what's going on. And I journal, y'all, and I keep track of things, and I am very honest with myself, and it is not fun. However, it's the most beneficial. And so that's one of the things I've been working on creating. And I'm excited for at some point for it to come to you. But in the meantime, I'm going to talk to you about it on here. So I appreciate y'all joining tonight. It was such a pleasure to have y'all all here and jumping in on these conversations. I'm just here to share with you all things that I've been through, and hopefully will help you. Because guess what? Sometimes people don't want to air the things that they've been through. And be honest, I have no problem with doing that. And guess what? You shouldn't either. You're not the first. And guess what? You won't even be the last. But the more we know about one another, we can be like, ooh, I remember they said X, Y, and Z. Or I can learn from that and share this with some people who probably out there in these regular relationships, lusting, living for that lifestyle, or lacking self-esteem, self-respect, and self-worth. Share this video. And then next week, we'll talk about the 3 L's for how to move past that. Y'all, please, thank you for joining me, hanging out with me. I miss y'all. See you guys next week. Go to marissaalexander.com. Sign up for my email subscription. I will not be harassing you, but I like to do my videos, and I'll send those to you, and maybe some other things that are very specific and personal to me that I'm not going to put out on social media initially. But I'll definitely give it to those who subscribe at marissaalexander.com. And also, if you got something you want to talk about, something you want to share, maybe be a guest, let me know. Sign up at marissaalexander.com. So thank y'all for joining me today. Y'all so special. Take care of yourself and one another. Peace out.